All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Treasured Podcast. Today, we're going to be going over a few topics of conversation, all from one video, actually, from an interview that happened on the Iced Coffee Hour with Patrick Bet-David. Amazing gold nuggets that were dropped, and we're going to go ahead and elaborate on a few of these things and also bring in, hopefully, a great Christian worldview on it. But before we start, I want to address one thing. Actually, two things. First thing is what I have in my hand. This here, guys, has been a lifesaver. I am not sponsored by these guys at all, but if you guys look at it here, this is called the Carpio 2.0. It is designed to help out with carpal tunnel. It's an ergonomical wrist rest that you get. Wrist rest. Say that 5 times. 10 times fast, you'll probably twist your tongue more than you'd like to say. And this is their gaming version. I prefer this. I prefer a strap over any of the other ones. They have other ones without the straps, but it's a phenomenal thing. It's form fits to your hand, and it actually gives you space right here where you're not putting pressure on the carpal tunnel. It's an amazing product. Comes in an amazing, awesome box. I can't talk about this enough right now. I actually have carpal tunnel. A best way to take care of your health, especially if you're a gamer or creator, or you work a lot from home. If you're really just using your hands a lot on your PC, something like the Carpio 2.0 will help you guys out a lot. I use it a lot with gaming. It's super comfortable. I forget that it's here sometimes, and I keep it strapped on when I'm using my mouse at all times. So if at any moment you guys see me lift up my hands and I have some little weird thing on my hand, trust me, it's not weird. It's actually super cool, and you should consider getting one of these. And second thing, I hope you guys see on the screen right now something interesting. And that interesting thing is actually right up here. Wait, there. Sorry. Right up there. We have a Patreon, ladies and gentlemen. To get full access to a lot of our podcasts that you guys see here live on Kick. By the way, follow me on Kick. You guys can have full access to an unedited form of our podcast on Patreon. Just $5 a month allows you guys to support our family. And so we're using our skills, our talents, like creating content, adding value to your guys' lives, and helping other people as well in need, because that's a big thing of our community too. We want to give back. We have a goal set. So if you can help us out by becoming a Patreon member, that gets us closer to that goal. And that also gets us closer to enabling us to do greater things to impact the world at a greater scale, and making sure that at the end of the day, all things are taken care of. And we're practicing what we preach at the end of the day. Earlier, about 2 weeks ago, actually, we stumbled upon a podcast with Patrick Bet-David. Now, if you don't know who Patrick Bet-David is, he is a well-known entrepreneur, owned his own business, sold insurance, recently sold off his company for several $million figures as well. Also the owner of an entertainment company called Valuetainment. A lot of big people have been a part of that he's interviewed and brought on, the likes of Ruslan, KD, as well as people like the Andrew Tate brothers. He got a lot of traction because he was able to interview them in Romania when they got out, right? And now I know when people hear Andrew Tate, it's not a full sponsoring of Andrew Tate, but they were able to get a full conversation with him after being done on being under house arrest, right? And that whole nine. So he has been in some controversial areas, but overall, he's a great thought leader, great thinker. He's also great at presenting. And there's a lot of knowledge in this podcast that we're going to go over. It's called the Iced Coffee Hour podcast. He was brought on, and he dropped so many great nuggets on when it came to, one, if you're doing podcasts or content creation, 2, how to live life in general. On top of that, we're going to be going over something really special as well, as about Patrick Bet-David's faith and how important or how non-important it really is in his life, and how it's made an impact into his success today. So we're going to be going over this content, reacting. We're also going to be giving you guys a few tools and resources as we continue to talk about these things, add a little bit more context to what we think is going on. Hopefully you guys find value as well to it. But let's get this puppy rolling. We're going to be jumping around the video, by the way, guys. There's multiple topics that we will be covering. This is going to be a multiple part series. This will be on different pods in the future until we cover it. I would highly recommend you guys look it up and go watch the whole podcast for your guys' self. There is so much value it has from a great thought leader and an amazing entrepreneur. As I said, Patrick Bet-David was able to interview with Valuetainment, his company. They were able to interview the Tate brothers. They interviewed Andrew Tate actually a couple times, I think, in their career, but they were able to interview the Tate brothers right after their release in Romania. We're going to be looking at is really what it meant to create that content. So a lot of people right in this space would want to interview somebody like Andrew Tate or whoever else, this big figure that might be controversial. Whether you're against the figure, right, and you're trying to draw bad things out of them or like paint a different picture, or whether you're for the person and trying to draw things out of them. Before we go any further, there might be some strong language that gets used in this. Live right now, I can't edit it out, so if you guys have an issue with that, just cover your ears when you hear it. Can't prep you more than enough than that. When we're posting this live, Dill and I will make sure that we get most of those words bleeped out for you guys, so you guys don't have to worry about that while rewatching this series. But one of the biggest golden nuggets is preparing for a podcast, actually. Podcasting has been on the rise since COVID-19 pandemic. It's been really huge. A lot of people have been doing it. Everybody has a podcast. We have a podcast. There's a podcast everywhere for anybody. I think it's a very unique space. And even to think that if you're in the top 5,000 most watched, heard podcasts, you're in the top 0.02% of podcasts in the world. That means you're succeeding in that podcast. So maybe one day the Treasured Podcast can get up there. For right now, humble beginnings. But it was very cool to see the mindset behind somebody who owns an entertainment company like Valuetainment and seeing what the prep comes up to be. As a content creator lately, there's been a topic in conversation, right? People are just pressing live and hoping to grow on stream without branching out their content and putting it on places like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram Reels, things of that nature. You're not utilizing the whole tools that you have in your tool bag to really help grow your content, really help grow your community, because you need to diversify your content. And by that is not only diversify it is as in saying make it palatable, which is one thing that people are missing. And I think a podcast is a great way to make things palatable. The reason why we switched over to doing a podcast, because we're able to portray more of the goal that we have for our different views, our different wants, just like being able to add more value to people, I should say. It helps us better articulate how to add more value to others, especially when it comes to sharing the gospel, especially when it comes to articulating the gospel. Being in a platform space like this is very valuable. On top of that, we do games outside of that. So we don't just stop at doing games. We make sure that we're reaching a broader audience, because you got to think about in content, really, what's the longevity of things? What is going to really be something that's long lasting? How long can games really be valuable in the sense of keeping the revenue streams going, keeping you the availability to keep that secure income going? I'm not saying that they stop at any time, but it might be more difficult as you grow older and get older. There might be more value you can add on something like a podcast than you would playing a game with some person. I'm not saying that games are bad or horrible, or you shouldn't do that at all, or you can't add value. You can add value to people there, but this is just a different platform where you can discuss more, be more in depth, and be more intentional about more of your values, mindsets, and things of that nature. Even sharing how you made it to your successes as a content creator that you are today. And Patrick Bet-David goes over something very, very, very cool. I think something that I really even haven't heard before, and we'll go over and check it out here first. What he has to say.
Interviewed Andrew Tate for the second time.
Yes.
14 million views in 1 month, which is absolutely astounding. I know for that podcast, extra amounts of research went into it. Can you walk us through maybe like the prior 3 days before that podcast?
Great question. So here's what we do. When we do big interviews, it is extra amount of research that we do. You're looking at topics, issues, questions, current events, but you're looking at top 3-5 angles. You can't be a regular person that's asking the same exact questions. Give me the keys to success, or give me the keys. So tell me what happened here. It has to be angles. If your angles aren't unique, no one's interested. People are interested in unique angles, right?
One of the biggest things when it comes to that mindset, like top 3 angles, when we had a podcast earlier last year with one of my great friends, Jeff, who is an amazing, amazing expert when it comes to things of finances, especially things in cryptocurrencies and stock market things, where he's a full-time day trader and a few other things when it comes to the financial realm, a financial advisor, has his own financing company for you guys. And you guys can go check out that video. We'll make sure to have something on the screen here for you guys to click. The amount of time for these earlier podcasts, even with our podcast with Jono, if you guys don't know who Jono is, go check him out. A few earlier podcasts where we had people, I took the time to really write down questions. And I try to make my questions more unique and have those different type of angles that people weren't necessarily hearing out there in the podcasting world. I fell off, but hearing that, it ironically, as we mentioned earlier, how right now there's a notion where some creators just think you're going to blow up just by clicking the live button on your OBS screen and going live on whatever platform you choose to participate to go live on. It's almost the same thing when people are doing podcasts. It's very basic, this is what normal people really ask. And I think the innovative portion of this is something that really brought me to my attention, where I was like, wow, really? Like everybody, if you sit down with a millionaire, 99% of people will say, ask this millionaire, what are the keys to success? But nobody's going to really take a different take. Like, what is your lifestyle? Like a question that I would ask if I was sitting down with a millionaire and I was specifically asking them on how we would earn success or get to the point that they lived. And we'll actually we'll speed through the video. There's one portion about in this podcast that actually speaks a little bit about that. But like asking things of lifestyle, right? What lifestyle did you have to go through prior to becoming a millionaire that allowed you to unlock the keys to success, or something of that nature, right? That's a little bit more in-depth question. And Patrick Bet-David will be talking more about the in-depth questions of that and like really drawing out this thought process to be able to add more value. Because what's the keys to success? We've heard that multiple times. You can look that up probably, and everybody and their mom probably has what they feel this is their keys of success. This is their 2 + 2 = 4 for everybody. And if you follow this absolute equation in your life, you will have success too. We'll elaborate on that a little bit later because there's an actual great example that Patrick Bet-David uses to be able to example a little bit of family values for his sons and his daughters. He has 4 kids. So for all of his kids in general, that we think is pretty spot on. That's something that is a massive nugget that I don't think people are really understanding in the content community. Most creators aren't thinking of is how to be more in depth. How do you get more deeper? Because I think we're at a cusp when it comes to content creation where almost everybody can put something together where it looks like this. If this is the bar, this is the highest bar, you can make it look like you're at the highest bar. Now there's a lot of content creators that I know that are making content at a high bar, but to differentiate from all these content creators, you have to think about the above and beyond. Like what makes you go from good to great? What makes that excellence? What is that bar? And podcasting, that's what a question is. Like that might be a good question. What are the keys to success? But how do you make that more deep? How do you draw more out of a person to be able to give more value to your audience that you're trying to give value to? Like the audience that's here right now, you guys that are here right now are here to have value added onto you. So if everything was just basic, then, I mean, you can get basic value anywhere else. But the idea with the Treasured Podcast, the idea with I think any podcast should be is how do you get the higher version of the value? How do you get more skin off the rib, right? How do you have more meat and protein to the conversation? And I think that's very positioned well. So let's go back to this portion and see what Patrick Bet-David has to say.
You can't be a regular person that's asking the same exact questions. Give me the keys to success, or give me the keys. So tell me what happened here. It has to be angles. If your angles aren't unique, no one's interested. People are interested in unique angles, right? When I get interviewed on different podcasts, I'm like, okay, here we go again. This is another question that's been asked a million times, right? When we did the podcast last time, a lot of clips took off for you guys because you guys did the right job asking questions to get content that maybe hadn't been heard before. That's what the audience wants to see, right?
And like I said, what as a content creator are you doing in your podcast or in your content that maybe people haven't received or seen before? And that's a phenomenal problem to, I should say, that's a phenomenal solution to have to a problem. What are you doing that is an outlier that people like, whoa, I did not know that prior to ingesting some of your content?
We got to Romania the night before I don't know how many hours it was. I would say we sat there at a table for 6 hours to prep on what angles to take with the interview. And when we did the interview, we were all going on probably a couple hours of sleep, and it was done. We stayed with him till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. But yes, you're looking at angles, and I'm not only interviewing him. So I interviewed Andrew, and right after us with Andrew, we went to Tristan without a break. So it's boom, boom. The interview, 7 hours of doing interviews, back to back to back. But yes, lots of preparation.
And what angle did you settle on for the Andrew Tate interview?
This whole conversation is crazy. We won't go in depth. I think this particular topic on podcasting angles and stuff lasts almost about 5 to 6 minutes in this hour and 86 minute podcast. It's such a big thing as a content creator. And it really just struck deep and near to me. Like, what am I doing in my podcast? What am I doing with my content in general to elevate it to a higher level? Is it the same if somebody turns it on? Is it the same as anybody else that goes live? Is it the same as most of my peers? How do I stand above? How do I rise above? And I think one of the biggest thing is, as content creators, is really asking yourself that question. How do we get deeper with the content to make it more unique and present content that people may not be seeing or hearing in the world today? So what are you doing to do that? Question for me, what am I doing? And that's an amazing question to have and a problem to have for you to solve. Gets your brain thinking, gets your noggin going, and really helps you draw a plan of action. I think lately, in general, with everything, we've been trying to draw plans of action and storyboarding and doing all these things. Why? Prior, naive me thought that was just whatever. I don't know why people do that. I'm usually a horrible planner. I'm not going to lie. But lately, finding value in planning, finding value in storyboarding, finding value in writing down points in conversation really helps you stay on a track where if you're trying to deliver a message, it gives you the opportunity to deliver the message that you're trying to deliver versus assuming that you'll deliver the message the way you want it. And then you realize, dang, there's like 40 minutes of filler that you could probably cut out and not need to use. But that's 40 minutes of your time that you wasted essentially that you can never get back. So how do you maximize every aspect of your content creation, and how does that affect your quality?